All right, so if you suffer from back pain or have a weak lower back, I'm gonna give you 3 stages that I go through with all my athletes to improve their back strength and protect them from future injury. Let's get into it. All right, quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor, just your regular strength coach, but if you do have back problems, make sure you consult with your physician before you handle any of these exercises. All right, so stage 1 is gonna be grooving motion and motor patterns and putting yourself in a better postural alignment. With my fighters, they're kyphotic in nature. A lot of the times, these guys' shoulders are rolled forward, anterior pelvic tilt in the hips. And what ends up happening is that 1, they don't know how to breathe properly, and 2, their posture gets thrown off because of the sport. So what we want to do is get them in a base position and have them breathe diaphragmatically so that we can enhance their posture to allow them to be more dynamic with their movements and not be out of place. We're going to start off with a 90-90 breathing technique. All we're doing right now is just trying to get 360 degrees of expansion in the rib cage, making sure that we're breathing through the entire lumbar spine. So 90-90 breath position. When you do this, you want to make sure that your tongue is on the roof of the mouth, you're breathing in through the nose, and you're breathing through the diaphragm. So I'm actually getting expansion, not only getting expansion in the midsection, in the front part or the anterior part, but we're also going to go ahead and get it through the sides and in the backside. The goal here is to get that expansion like I talked about. And then we're also gonna work on our intra-abdominal pressure. So basically, when you go ahead and expand the rib cage, you're going to contract those muscles, allowing for you to have stiffness in the lumbar spine. I'm also gonna use my fingers as a tactile cue to expand my rib cage and also push down on my low back when I go ahead and drive that air into the low back. I'm gonna use my feet and I'm gonna go ahead and slide my feet slightly down, right? So I'm going to utilize my hamstrings to lift my pelvis off the ground slightly. That's gonna stack my pelvis and my rib cage together. So instead of being open where my ribs are flaring, I'm gonna draw this down and make sure that everything's aligned. From there, I'm gonna take my chin, I'm gonna draw my chin down so that my cervical spine, my thoracic spine, and my lumbar spine are all in alignment. From there, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and take my fingers, I'm gonna breathe in, tongue on the roof of the mouth, breathe in through my nose, and I'm gonna expand as much as possible. After I expand as much as I can, I'm gonna go ahead and brace. So I'm gonna just tighten up my abdominal muscles, my obliques, and I'm also going to squeeze my glutes. So again, I'm creating tightness and stability and creating that intra-abdominal pressure when I go to lift. All right, it's the same concept when we talk about it in the later stages. I'm gonna need to do this every time I go for a particular lift in a concentric action. I'm gonna take a breath in, I'm gonna brace. I'm gonna exhale all the way out through pierced lips. You're gonna do about 5 repetitions here, making sure you get that expansion necessary. Another thing you wanna be mindful of is not to be super uptight here, so shoulders need to be drawn down. Again, you're still palpating, but you don't want your shoulders to be all uptight. Another thing that you can do is what's called crocodile breathing. So you can lay on your stomach and use a weight that's going to assist you in actually breathing through your low back. So you lay down with a weight on your back and with your hands on your head, you're gonna go ahead and breathe again diaphragmatically, expanding and pushing that weight off of your back. All right, stage 2 is gonna be increasing stability. So we're gonna stabilize the trunk and we're gonna stabilize the foot. We're gonna use unilateral movements to do that. Let's try it. All right, the first one you can do is a single leg box step up. If you don't have a box, you can step over a hurdle. If you don't have a hurdle, you can step over a cone. But all you're doing is stabilizing on that one side, making sure that I'm not losing my position, right? So step up, foot on the box, bring it back down. And again, if you don't have a box, that's fine. Use a hurdle, that's even better. If you have a hurdle, you can stick it to the side, open up, get over the hurdle, and then back around. Right? If you don't have a hurdle, a cone will do just fine. All right, so the second exercise for stability, you can use an RX pad or you can use a wobble board, but we're gonna go single leg, and all you're doing is you're gonna catch a ball, tennis ball, doesn't matter, but you're gonna maintain your position, throw it back, and just catch it either right, left. The person throwing it can give you some type of demand, whether it be catch with your right, catch with your left, catch with both hands, catch with one hand, whatever have you. But just to make it more difficult and to create a little bit more chaos when you're going and concentrating on maintaining your stability. The next one for core stability and just strengthening up the core, the trunk muscles, is gonna be a Swiss ball dead bug. The reason why I use a Swiss ball is to help with tension. It creates a tactile cue to maintain your position. And then when you're going for that opposite arm, opposite leg, you wanna make sure that you're bracing the core. Just like we did when we were doing our breath work, create that intra-abdominal pressure and maintain your position as you go to shoulder flex and extend the hip. All right, so the next one that we're gonna do is purely working the rectus abdominals, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna focus on maintaining your hip position, and you're also going to activate the hamstrings. So we're gonna use heel sliders or furniture sliders. As we go into that eccentric portion of the sit-up, we're gonna bring the heels close to the butt, right? And maintaining that position with these heel sliders. Now, the thing that's gonna be tensed is gonna be the hamstrings, and obviously you're gonna put a lot of tension in the rectus abdominals on the eccentric phase. So the first one we're gonna do is we're gonna slide these sliders all the way out, straight leg, sit up with a good neutral posture, and then from there we're gonna slide the heels in, maintaining position, don't put your toes down. We're gonna keep the toes slightly up, and then you're gonna come down in that neutral posture as slow and controlled as possible, and then drop it down. Slide them out, sit back up, repeat. Down slow, control. All right, so we went flexion, now we're gonna go extension. We're gonna use the reverse hyper here. Now, if you don't have a reverse hyper machine, you can use an incline bench, lay over the top of it, and just swing those legs up. What we're gonna be doing is a dynamic to a static motion. So we're gonna get full flexion underneath, we're gonna drive our feet underneath the pad, and you're gonna go into full hip extension, squeezing the glutes and maintaining that position. Now, you're not gonna go with any load on this one. We're gonna start off with just body weight. Eventually, yes, you wanna start to increase it, but I wouldn't go anywhere higher than, let's say, 50 pounds on the actual reverse hyper when you're doing this particular motion. Because we're gonna go from a dynamic and then hold at that isometric contraction at the hip extension level, we wanna make sure that we're not putting too much weight in that end range, especially if you do have back issues. When you're swinging it up or when you're swinging your legs up, make sure that you put the emphasis on the glutes to drive into hip extension and not the low back. So we don't want full hyper extension, we just want flat extension of the hips. All right, so we're gonna lay over the top with my hips off of the pad. All right, I'm gonna take the handles and I'm gonna activate my lats by pulling my elbows in and locking in my thoracic spine. All right, from here. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and activate my lower abs and drive my legs underneath the platform. All right, this is going to somewhat round out the low back. From there, as my lats are locked in place, I'm gonna go ahead and use my glutes to extend my hips. I'm gonna go to where I feel that full contraction of the glutes, and then I'm gonna bring them down nice and controlled, get that full flexion. And now we're working not only, hip extension, we're also working on tractioning out that lower back, that lumbar spine. All right, so we went to anterior, posterior. Now we're gonna work the lateral chain, and we're gonna do a basic side plank. Now, this is a part of the McGill 3. Most of these stages that I'm going through are based off of his findings, off of his research. So if you do have back pain or do have back problems, check out all of Dr. Stuart McGill's work. So basic side plank position, all right? We're gonna get into a 90-degree angle on the arm, right? So what I wanna see is the wrist is aligned with the elbow and the elbow is aligned with the shoulder. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stack both my feet together. I'm gonna lift my hips up to the ceiling and I'm gonna maintain my foot placement. Another thing that I want you to be mindful of is don't let the shoulder collapse. So we wanna make sure that you're staying away from your ear. So we're gonna drive and use your lat and your serratus muscles to elevate the body all the way up into the ceiling. So not only are you working the obliques, but you're working the entire lateral chain. All right, so we're gonna lift up, hold position, opposite hand could be on the hip, head is aligned. Another thing is make sure that the shin doesn't drop down, so you're not here. We're gonna stay up. I shouldn't see the shin drop to the floor. Feet are stacked, hips are high, elbow is aligned with the shoulder. I'm just gonna hold for 30 seconds. All right, so now that you've done that, you've become efficient with that. Now we're gonna move on to stage 3, which is your dynamic endurance. So now we're gonna work on moving in certain planes of motion, right, through space, and we're gonna offset some of the weight to make it more challenging. So the first one we're gonna do is a cross-connect walk. Now you can do this without weight to start and then start to progress it with kettlebells. Let's try it out. Okay, so basic cross-connect walk, right? We're activating the oblique sling, the posterior and the anterior oblique sling. You're standing on one leg and maintaining that position with your hip, and then also, obviously, you wanna activate the core muscles as you bring that leg up. So we're gonna go opposite elbow, opposite knee. You're gonna rotate only the thoracic spine. We're rotating, maintaining a solid alignment here, squeezing the glutes, and the adductors are also gonna be on, so I don't wanna see the foot fall out of place, making sure you're maintaining 3 points of contact as you bring the opposite leg up. So I'm here, I'm rotating, pulling with my lat, and then pushing my shoulder forward with the serratus anterior. Then we step forward, we replace, do it again. And we're working that rotation, but we're maintaining core stability. So we're working dynamically, or slower dynamic, and maintaining a solid position in the trunk. So once you've gotten good with that, we can scale it up with kettlebells, right, adding load to the movement. All right, so I have some kettlebells here. I'm gonna put it in the front rack position. From here, I'm just gonna go through that same movement. Cross connect, rotate the body, maintaining your position with the trunk. All right, so now we're gonna move on to offsetting in a suitcase carry. So we're still working that lateral chain, but you're also working anti-lateral flexion and anti-rotation. Biggest thing is that you don't wanna lean too far on one side or the other. You wanna try to maintain that neutral posture as you go to walk with the kettlebell. Another thing is you wanna make sure that your upper back is nice and locked in place. So utilize your lats to maintain shoulder position. Don't let the shoulders roll forward or turn you around, all right? So I'm gonna set up with the kettlebell on my side. I'm gonna hinge to pick the kettlebell up, bend my knees slightly, and then up in that one place, you can grab your fist to create irradiation and tightness in the body, lock in your lats, and then start to walk. All right, so now we're gonna move on to anti-rotation, really hitting the obliques. So we're gonna use a cable here. We're gonna just do a basic press variation. I'm gonna square up my feet, make sure the cable's in line with the shoulder. From there, I'm gonna make sure that I'm maintaining my posture and maintaining my position in my chest. Elbows are at a 90-degree angle, right? You can have that other hand out for balance. You're also gonna grip the ground with the feet, right? So make sure you get 3 points of contact and create torque. So once you screw your feet into the ground, keep your glutes on and get those abs engaged. From there, you're gonna press, not overly rotating, and as you go to bring it back, you're not letting it rotate you back the other way. We're gonna lock in place, abs are tight, obliques are on. You're gonna press, go to that 90-degree angle, and then punch it out. All right, so we went through stage 3. Now we're gonna move on to stage 4, where we're gonna increase the dynamic capabilities of what you've gained: power, speed, and endurance. So I'm gonna utilize med ball variations and jumping patterns. All right, keep it very simple. We're gonna go into a tabletop position and do mountain climbers. Now with the mountain climbers, a couple things you gotta be mindful of. Don't let the knee go outside the hip. I don't want you to bring the foot down. I actually want you to keep that foot up to maintain that core stability and that core tightness. And you're gonna allow those knees to travel as far forward as possible without too much rounding in the low back. So we are gonna keep that neutral posture. You're gonna get into full hip flexion, but you're not gonna allow that lumbar to round out. Another thing is gonna be rapid fire. So again, it's fast. I would say it's the most dynamic movement that you could do in that tabletop position. But again, you have to maintain your position. All right, let's do it. Right here. All right, so listen, remember, this is highly dynamic. So if you haven't been able to gain the prerequisites to go into these higher dynamic movements, don't do it. Wait until you can have that full strength, full stability in the trunk itself to allow you to do these dynamic movements, right? Don't rush the process. It may take you 4 weeks, it may take you 6 weeks to go through each stage, but when you're ready, you'll know. One thing I will always harp on is make sure that you don't push through pain, right? If you feel any type of tightness or back pain or shooting down the leg, any type of sciatica issues, things like that, make sure that you scale it back, work on those other things in the earlier stages, and then get to that down the line once you're able to do so. Don't rush the process. All right, so the next one, we're still working dynamically, but you're gonna maintain your core tightness. We're gonna take a medicine ball, we're gonna go overhead, and you're gonna do ballistic med ball passes, but this one's gonna be rapid fire. So what I wanna see is get a slight knee bend, make sure that your pelvis is in line with the rib cage. You're not overly extended, right, in this open chain position. So we wanna lock everything in, abs are tight, no rib flare. From there, the elbows are gonna go up, hands are gonna go up, ball is over the head. From there, we're gonna tuck our chin in, make sure the abs are tight, and then drive the ball into the wall, rapid fire, maintaining your position as you go to throw the ball as fast and as rapidly as possible. So time frame wise, you're looking at about 6 to 10 seconds total, 3 to 5 sets. Again, the major thing, maintain that posture, keep a solid alignment, make sure that you keep pressure on the balls of the feet, 3 points of contact on the feet, but make sure that most of your weight is on the balls of the feet. Your hips are gonna be back, but your rib cage is gonna be stacked. So we're not overly extending here. Like I said, you're gonna tuck in slightly, ball goes over the head, and then throw the ball as fast as you can. All right, so now we're gonna move on to more of a plyometric activity, and we're gonna do skater bounds. Now with this one, again, you have to have the prerequisites to do this, but we're gonna load the hip on that one side of the leg that you're pushing off of. Slightly rotate the upper back, and then as you go to push off, you're gonna rotate and then stick on that other leg. So there is a rotational component of this. Make sure that your lumbar spine is nice and locked in place, and you're allowing for your thoracic spine to move freely in rotation. I'm gonna push off, I'm gonna stick, hold, stick, hold, stick, hold, boom. Right, when you get good at it, then you can start to speed up. All right, you wanna gain more power, you start pushing off a little bit more, right? Big push, big push, big push, right? You wanna make it more complex, bring that arm down to the ground, bring the hand down to the ground, touch the ground, replace, touch, replace, touch, replace, touch. Again, only if your back will allow that to happen. Make sure that you have the prerequisites to do it. Last one we're gonna do is a rotational med ball toss to the wall. With this one, I'm gonna square up my feet. Same thing with the skater bound, I'm gonna load my hip. As I load my hip, I'm gonna bring that ball back behind my hip, open up the elbow, and then I'm gonna toss the ball, almost like an underhand toss, as I go into hip extension. So I'm gonna go from hip flexion to hip extension. Make sure that everything is still tight, create stiffness in the lumbar spine, but allow your thoracic to rotate. So we're gonna be here, everything's tight. I'm not overly rotating like this. I'm still maintaining a good position with my hip and my torso. Then I'm gonna take it, all right, so remember the 4 steps to protecting your back. 1, you wanna increase your motion and motor patterns. You wanna increase your ability to have proper posture. So you're gonna use breathing techniques to allow for that to occur, putting yourself in a better position to move dynamically. After that, we're gonna go into increasing stability from that newfound posture that you've gained. Once you've solidified your strength and stability in the lumbar spine and some rotation in the thoracic spine and hips, which again, that's going to correlate over into quality movement, then you can go ahead and start working on your dynamic endurance work, where you're gonna be going through patterns of motion throughout distance by maintaining your stability. Finally, stage 4, you're gonna work pure dynamic capability. So you're working speed, power, and agility with that newfound strength in the lumbar spine and in the low back. So what I will preface is this: make sure that you spend the adequate amount of time, the optimal amount of time to go from each stage to the next. Do not speed up the process in order for you to get to that dynamic work. If you find out that you have any pain in the spine, especially in the low back, or a shooting pain down the leg, make sure that you taper off of that. You go back to the pre-stage that you were in and solidify stability and strength in the core in order for you to go ahead and do your dynamic movements. So don't push past pain ever. Make sure that you, again, take the proper time to evolve and then go from there. All right, so if you want to work with me personally or with one of my coaches online anywhere around the world, go ahead, click the description down below to get one-on-one access with me and my team. And I'll see you on the inside. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification, hit the like button, all that good stuff. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. And see you again. Peace.